Lorena Gonzalez got her first paycheck at age 8, working the fields in central Washington. She put herself through college and now is a pivotal new member of the Seattle City Council.
To be part of a group of women who is the first majority women representation on City Council since the 90s is a very, very big deal.
We'll learn more about Councilmember Gonzalez's strong connection to the Latino community, her relationship working for and then alongside Mayor Ed Murray, as well as her busy first 10 months in office. Hello and welcome to Council Conversations. I'm Josephine Chang. Today we're at Plaza Roberto Maestas in Seattle's El Centro de la Raza, and we're with Councilmember Lorena Gonzalez.
Oh.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
You know, I know you have an emotional connection to this place, which we'll talk about a little later. But first, because this is your first council conversation, I want viewers to get to know you better. You have fascinating background, beginning with your parents immigrating from Mexico in the 1960s.
Yeah, they originally came from a very rural town in Mexico, from the state of Michoacan. It's a west coast state in Mexico, and they decided to pursue the American dream and hopefully provide a better opportunity and better life for their children. And so they immigrated here, made the hard, arduous trek from Mexico into America in the early 60s, where we already had family living here.
And so they and your 3 brothers and 2 sisters and you were all migrant farm workers in central Washington, and you did that since you were like 8 years old.
Right.
What were you doing? Picking fruits and vegetables? What?
Yeah, so after my parents moved here, soon after they got married, they settled in central Washington state, where my mom had a cousin living in Wapato, out in central Washington. And eventually my parents bought a house and we settled in Grandview, Washington, which is in the lower Yakima Valley. And that was our primary, base. But every summer we would go from Grandview to Wenatchee and live in migrant farm labor camps, where we would pick cherries, primarily during the summer. But we also, in the Yakima Valley, cut asparagus, picked apples, picked pears. And my parents were known as some of the best pruners in wine country in central Washington. So they were very, very sought out to prune grapes during the winter, and they did a tremendous amount of work in that area.
The agriculture basket of Washington State.
Exactly.
You know, as the child of immigrants myself, I know that one common trait among many immigrant parents is their focus on education for the kids.
Absolutely.
Was it made clear to you and your siblings that you will go to college and beyond?
Yeah, I think like most immigrant kids, particularly first generation born American immigrant kids, I grew up like, I basically was a latchkey, so raised, between the hours of 3 and 6 o'clock by my elder siblings, and until mom and dad got home. And it was always made very clear to us: you get home, these are your chores, you finish your chores, you sit down, you do your homework. And I am going to check your homework. I may not know what that algebra answer actually is, but I need to see that it was actually done and completed. And there was always an expectation that we would do well in school and that we would continue to pursue education.
So you started with community college while working several jobs, and then you transferred to Washington State University, Wazoo.
Yes.
I've heard you say, I'm not good at numbers, but you were a business major, weren't you?
I was. I guess I should say I've never really particularly liked math very much, not necessarily that I wasn't very good at it, but I was a business major, and sort of the first few years I was out of college, but before I went to law school, I worked at Deloitte & Touche, which was a big accounting firm back then, before the bust of Wall Street, and then and was also a paralegal, doing a lot of legal work, particularly around mergers and acquisitions.
So you did have some curiosity about the legal profession.
I did. I didn't know exactly what it meant. I did not grow up knowing any lawyers and didn't meet a lawyer until I was in college for the first time. And my only familiarity with lawyers was on TV. So I wanted to like just test the waters and go work at a law firm or work around lawyers and get a better understanding of what does a lawyer actually do, and is that something that I think I could potentially have a career in?
And clearly the answer was yes.
Yes,
You earned your
lucky
law
me.
degree from Seattle University, and then you worked for a big downtown law firm. And it was during that period, wasn't it, that you started the legal clinic here at El Centro de la Raza, and thus your connection?
Right. So I went to Seattle University School of Law, a really strong Jesuit institution here, and part of the reason why I wanted to go there was because they had such a strong focus on social justice, even in the context of a legal career and curriculum. And I did end up going to work for a law firm. It was at that time the plaintiff's largest law firm representing people. And part of what I did there is really emphasize the importance to me of making sure that I'm always giving back to my community, even though I was a trained professional lawyer. And it was very easy to convince my former firm to essentially be the fiscal sponsor and agent for starting a legal clinic here at El Centro that has served thousands of people since it started.
You know, as a lawyer, working for a big downtown law firm is sort of a dream job for a lot of lawyers. So why leave all of that to become in-house counsel to Mayor Ed Murray?
I get that question a lot. So it certainly wasn't the pay, but I was very happy doing the work that I was doing. I had an opportunity to, as a lawyer, represent workers, a lot of them monolingual Spanish speakers, people who had been subjected to wage theft, women who'd been subjected to sexual harassment and assault, children, elderly. I was doing really righteous work that I was very proud of, but I was getting frustrated with the wheels of justice, if you will.
How slowly it turns?
It was very slow, very, very slow, and a lot of people talk about the Seattle process in terms of how we legislate and make decisions on policy, but let me tell you, the courthouse wheels of justice are much slower. And I really wanted an opportunity to just bring my values and my work to my experience to an administration who I thought his values also aligned with that. And I wanted to be able to work on issues that were going to have a long-lasting positive impact for our community. And so when the opportunity presented itself, I was very excited about being able to take it.
So after only about a year, really, I think you surprised the mayor a bit by deciding to run for city council. How did that all go down?
Yeah. I think he was surprised, and it was a little less than a year that I'd been working for him when the opportunity to run for city council presented itself. And I have to say he was very, very supportive and encouraging. And
once he got over his shock.
once he got over the shock of having to lose me. So, but I think, again, it was another opportunity that presented itself that really, really spoke to me, because it was going to, again, be an opportunity for me to work on some really hard issues that were confronting the city, that are still confronting the city. And I believe that the values that I brought and the perspective that I brought and my lived experiences that I would bring to that position would be of value.
In fact, I want to ask you, because you won one of the two at-large positions. You and Councilmember Burgess represent the whole city. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What's it like being one of the youngest council members and in the women majority?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I get to go around and say things like, "That's janky," or "I'm getting hangry. Let's wrap this meeting up."
So
we're mixing things up. But it's I have to say, in all seriousness, it's been wonderful. It's to be part of a group of women who is the first majority women representation on city council since the 90s is a very, very big deal, particularly when we're dealing with so many gender equity issues, the continued lack of paid family leave, at the federal level that we end up feeling the pressure of. So it's really great to be able to be part of a body that has a new surge of energy and a lot of creativity.
Well, I do want to get into some of the issues that you brought forth on council. First, the work scheduling ordinance, which would require big employees to post schedules at least 2 weeks in advance and give additional hours to existing employees before they hire new ones. A lot of very large employers like Starbucks and Costco have really come out opposing this. Is this an issue that you're willing to go to the mat on, and why?
Yeah, it is an issue that I have already gone to the mat on in conjunction with Councilmember Herbold, who is the other co-sponsor of this legislation. So she and I have had over 10 public hearings, public meetings on this.
But why this issue? Why is this the big one for you?
This issue is really important because I see it as both a gender equity issue and a social justice issue. We have one of the greatest income inequality crises facing our country, and our city is not exempt from that. We have a workforce in this city that is primarily working in low-wage hourly jobs. And yes, we increased the minimum wage, but the minimum wage of $15 falls flat when you don't have access to the hours that you need to have in order to make that money and have economic security and be able to provide for yourself and for your family.
Got to talk to you too about the homeless encampment legislation that's on the table. What is the city considering? I mean, the advance notice, 30 days notice possibly, finding alternatives. Why is that important?
So I think we can all agree that the status quo is unacceptable. When I talk to concerned neighborhoods who are sheltered, one of the things they say is, I get really frustrated. The city comes, they clean, and then literally the next day or by the end of the day, the tents are back or the encampments are back. But I think the reality for me is that one, we need to act with a sense of urgency. Two is that the city is spending an incredible amount of energy, both in time and money, in really just shifting unsheltered people from one side of the block to the other. And I think it's time for us to sort of have a real clear conversation about how are we going to manage, what are the real protocols related to encampments that continue to exist in our city and are frankly growing. So we really need to be focusing on how are we providing services to these folks, and is that provision of services actually resulting in transitioning people from living in tents on the street or just sleeping on sidewalks into stable housing.
But yet, I mean, what a balance, because you also don't want to tie the city's hands in trying to deal with illegal homeless encampments.
Absolutely, and I know that there's a lot of controversy around this ordinance. I don't think it's not my intent to tie the city's hands. It's my intent to provide our city employees with clearer direction on when somebody should be moved along and when they shouldn't be moved along based on public health and public safety issues that are present in that moment.
Yeah, I know this is going to be a big discussion going
forward.
And
it's going to be subject to a lot of discussion moving forward over the next month. So.
Yes. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
You bet. And if you would like to find out more information on Councilmember Gonzalez, go to seattle.gov/council. And be sure to check out this brand new Plaza Roberto Maestas here at El Centro de la Raza. It is opening to the public on October 1st. I'm Josephine Chang. Thanks again for joining us on Council Conversations.